Hello and happy New Year, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and my goodness, what a way to start the new year. Yesterday, we had Jay Ronald talking that talk, talking about hashtag LFG. Now, I don't know about you folks, but to me, what that entails is let's effing go. And he says Xbox 2024. Now, I was made to believe that that is looking for group is something, but I got to be honest with you. Not the way that Jay Ronald was talking. He said Xbox 2024 hashtag LFG. That says that they are ready. Already, the first day of the year, they're putting their best foot forward. I'm super excited to get into topics today. We're talking Banjo Kazooie, folks, because, well, Ecstasies, who's a friend of this show, and I'm a friend of his, he's a Spanish YouTuber who's incredibly popular. And, folks, guess what? He's also well connected, and he had a lot to say about a Banjo Kazooie currently in development. That makes my heart flutter because, listen, there's got to be more than 3 people in the whole world that, me, Paris, and maybe a few other stragglers that need a new Banjo Kazooie in their life. We're also going to get into Game Pass, folks. Last year, thanks to TrueAchievements.com and their amazing writers, we learned that Game Pass was divvied almost $9,000 worth of games in 2023. That, folks, is value unlike anything I've ever seen before. And could they at least match it? Well, I don't know, because 2024 is looking to be a mammoth year. We're going to get into it, but we're going to open up with some human element talk, folks. Obviously, if you've been following the channel for a long time, one of the paramounts for Mrs. Boom and I is making sure that the people come first. And today, thanks to Sith Lord, who actually sent me a DM it's thanks to Sith Lord that I'm doing this topic, because I never really sat back and thought it until he framed it. He framed it in a way. He said, today is the first day that Activision employees are official Microsoft employees, and that Bobby Kotick is no longer in charge. That monster has been slain. He has been shown the door. His last day was Friday the 29th. And you know what? If you are an Activision employee, you got to be skipping into work today knowing that there's going to be a different way of making games at that monster publisher. We're going to get to all of that and then some, but I want to welcome in someone making his debut. He's going to tell you a little bit about himself, where he's from, what he's been up to. Gamesley, what's going on, dude? Welcome to the program.
Oh man, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you guys. So, Gamesley or Gamsley, I don't know anymore, but it's definitely Gamsley.
Okay, so it's Gamsley. There you go.
Yeah,
okay.
no, I love you guys. No, it's a joke. It's a joke. Every podcast I say it, but I'm a international para taekwondo athlete. I owe everything to gaming. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about my background. But I really want to touch up on the first topic before I talk about myself. So,
Okay.
if you would allow me to just say something really quick.
Sure, go right ahead, please, by all means.
Activision, so everybody that thinks this is not a big deal, as an athlete, you look up to your coach, right? You get into work every day and that guy is leading you, right? And it's up to the coach to see value in talent and grow it. Now, think about that on a huge scale. These people have been walking into their offices, looking at their coach, and their coach sees the talent, and they understand who these people are. But on a general manager level, every time they say, "Look at this guy, look what he can do," they keep stepping on them, right?
Mhm.
Instead of bringing the talent up, instead of being like, "Oh, you want to work on that? Sure." They keep squishing them down. It's almost like they're suppressing their skill. And it's terrible to walk into an environment like that every day. So shout out to Bobby getting the heck out of there. Shout out to all the workers that get to do their work and express their talent and new ideas. So just keep that in mind, guys.
Yeah, no, good stuff. We're gonna break it down further, but I appreciate you being here, making your debut here. You've been, we've been talking behind the scenes, so finally, really glad to get you here. Returning for the 2024 campaign is, of course, Daniel McGee. Daniel, what's going on, my brother? How you feeling?
Hey, how's it going?
It is going good. How's it going with you?
Oh, it's finally winter down here in Texas. Went out to my car for the first time yesterday and saw my breath. So we're just getting into it now. It's been a great time. Had a great holiday. Got to spend some time with the family.
Beautiful.
Spend some time with the friends. Just been a really relaxing couple of weeks.
Well, it's great to have you back. I'm glad that you took some time off to recharge the batteries. Obviously, caught up with family. That's always super important. And speaking of family, we got to welcome in Steel Rain. Folks, he's joined us on a regular basis. And yes, he walks right through the front door, puts his feet up. What's going on, my brother? How you feeling?
What's going on, Boom? Appreciate you guys having me in, and it's going to be a fantastic episode to start off this new year for sure. To have Gamsley here, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm a stickler about names, so if that's the way that you want it to be said, I definitely want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
It's all good, man.
but yeah, Boom, appreciate you for welcoming me on aboard, especially going into this new year. I think you hit that magic number 14K. I think it's onwards to 20K now, right? Well,
yes, up and upwards, for sure. As they say.
There you go. But yeah, guys, we're gonna have an amazing episode today. Boom's got some fantastic topics to line up, and starting off with that human element with Bobby going out of the window. I completely agree with what Gamsley put on the table right there. I think that completely gets forgot about. And I know we're gamers. We only care about the games that are getting put in front of us. But when it comes to these podcasts and stuff like that, and the things that have been happening, and again, Boom, you kind of touched on it earlier with what Bobby has seemingly done, and Gamsley kind of touched on it too. But I do want to add a little bit of this credence to Bobby a little bit. I know he's an evil man, but for Activision Blizzard on a business side of things, and again, still got to remember to talk about the human element side of it. But I do think that he has helped Activision Blizzard at least still be relevant in the modern era, for better or for worse. So as long as we get Xbox to get on board and change the things behind the scenes that have been an issue, I think we got something that's going to be extremely successful. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we'll go right back to you. Because again, folks, look, we're gamers, right? We don't now there are some people in here, they'll tell you, I want my game when I want it.
Right.
And I'm not here to fight with you if that's your mentality. But here in Double Barrel Gaming, one of the things that we pride ourselves is keeping the important things in front of us at all times, right? Being accurate with the news, having a high level of integrity, keeping the transparency as clear as glass, right? Having an inclusive way of podcasting where everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, or religion, are welcomed. And that also goes for whatever platform that you decide that is your platform of choice. You are welcomed here. So when Sith Lord DM'd me yesterday, and I was writing the topics, he made an amazing point, because we're all excited as gamers and consumers, right? Because the next Call of Duty, which is expected to be Black Ops Gulf War, and of course Treyarch retaking the lead, which we know they're an amazing developer, is going to be an Xbox Game Pass day and date, right? That's a known fact. And we know that at the beginning of the year, could happen as soon as tomorrow, could happen by the end of next week, we're going to start to see these games of Activision Blizzard get into the service that we pay for. And we're currently an Ultimate subscribers are paying $16.99. Now, one of the stories we're going to get into on the back half of the conversation, Steel, is that Game Pass had nearly $9,000 worth of games put into that service in 2023. That is crazy on its own. But I want to rewind this and talk about, if you are that talented developer, because understand this, folks, game development is ridiculously hard. And it's something that goes well over the mohawk for me. I couldn't do it. I started to go to school. And when I started to learn, I kind of pulled myself back. My brother continued. I stopped because, first of all, I was already a police officer for 2 years, and I was trying to do both. And it's very difficult to be a cop at the same time as go to school at night. Very difficult to do.
I
But what
imagine.
started happening for me is I started to learn what went on behind the curtain, and I didn't like knowing. I don't want to know how they make the soup. I just want to enjoy the soup, right? But January 29th,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Kotick leaves Activision and is now under the watchful eye of Microsoft, more specifically, the watchful eye of Phil Spencer. And I got to tell you, I don't know the feeling because I wasn't working for a tyrant like some of these developers were.
Mm-hmm.
But just imagine the kind of skipping that they're going into work today. It is almost like going to a celebration because you know that things are not going to run the way they used to run because he was out. So you left Activision on the 29th to start your holiday weekend, and on the 2nd of January, which is today, right now, there are people because it's 12. It's 9:12 in the West Coast. They're going into work, and Steele, that feeling has got to be an elation.
Oh yeah, I would imagine they have to be over the moon about it. I mean, again, it's one of those things to where because I have been in environments not to the level of what Bobby Kotick was, and with things going on behind the scenes, and it being a boys' club, and people being abused, and all the other allegations that are currently going on, and the realities that have been kind of happening over the years. I would be beyond. It would at least put me in a better spirit, knowing that the person that was over everything that we did, who was going to possibly get passed up ideas, and maybe has been holding us back for quite some time, not allowing us to be developers like you were touching on, or just branch out there really. If it wasn't Call of Duty or Diablo, if you want to throw it to that, but yeah, if it wasn't Call of Duty and then putting them getting put into the sweatshop, for lack of a better term, I think it's really interesting to see how things have been playing out, especially with Xbox just acquiring Activision Blizzard in totality, right? It's going to be a night and day difference, but I still think it will take some time for that difference to take place, right? Because Activision and Blizzard is about the same size as Xbox in totality, if I'm not mistaken. I could be a bit off than that. It could be even bigger than that. But just taking that into consideration, that is a lot of work that you're going to have to put in, and you just can't come in and say, oh, well, now we're going to do things completely different than the way you were doing before. It has to be a kind of a lead up process, kind of vetting people through, getting like I was when I spoke on this before, I had the idea that Phil was going to each individual studio, as we've been kind of hearing rumors about, and seeing what everybody had in stow for them, right? What they might have had on the back burner, where their interests lie, making sure that everybody was on board, they understand the vision. Because I think that's the biggest thing with this, with Bobby going away, is making sure that people understand the vision of what it means to become part of Xbox. And I think that especially with what Microsoft has experienced with Bethesda, that those ideologies are kind of carried over, because we saw what happened with Redfall, and Microsoft, Xbox doesn't want another situation like that. So I can only imagine that they're in there between Sarah Bond, Phil, Matt Booty, everybody getting their positions moved around, that they're going to make sure that all the issues that were there previously, again, Microsoft's known as one of the better places to work. Whether you want to take that as a fact or not, I guess that depends on your perspective on things. But I mean, it is what it is. On Forbes, their top 10 places to work, and you would imagine that they would want to uphold that standard. It is going to be extremely difficult. There's a lot that Activision Blizzard obviously has going on. It's another Titanic-sized ship. But when you can look over and you not only have your own SS Grant, I guess you could call it, but now you look over and it's like, man, I just bought the Titanic, but it needs some work, and we're gonna patch some holes, and maybe we need some new sheets of metal to patch some of these holes or to fix some of these areas. areas maybe we need to completely reconstruct before we send this ship back out. I think that's definitely going to be on the right path. And from what we have seen thus far, that's kind of the direction that they're moving in. So with Bobby being out of the door, the human element being put more on the front line, at least to us as gamers, being put more in the face of things. Again, like you, Boom, I am somebody that typically, especially at least in gaming, I don't necessarily want to become a cook. As much as I love talking about it and everything, and as much interest that I have, I love watching my Xbox On documentaries, for an example, or any other documentaries about gaming specifically. But I don't want to become a developer. So any additional information that we can get to help understand what's going on behind the scenes, to reveal some more of the realism, I think that's what I think that's what's interesting to me, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out moving into the future. So.
I agree. Like I said, if you listen, there's one thing that's amazing about this community, about the development community, as well as, of course, gaming, is it consistently growing. So if you want to be a game designer, by all means, go to school. They're offering classes even in some of the high schools, which is just bonkers. Like we didn't have any of that when I was growing up. But remember, I'm old as dirt, so. If that's what you want to do, good on you. For me, I want to look at it with those Disney magic eyes, right? Like I don't want to know. And again, to bring it back to why we're talking about this topic, I could not be more happy as a human being. If we get a gamer, if we get an Xbox dude, or if we get the lead voice for Double Barrel Gaming, as a human being. Gamsley, I'm excited for the people that make these games a reality for us to play are now going to be in a position where they don't have this tyrant running the show. And yes, I think Steele's onto something. You don't flip a switch and everything changes. But I would imagine that along with Bobby, anyone that was a part or looked the other way during, these, because remember, they just paid out millions of dollars to settle some of the lawsuits. That's coming from Activision, but that Activision money is Microsoft money, and I'm sure they didn't like to do that, but they had to. What are your thoughts, Gamsley, on the human element of how they're now feeling walking into work today for the first time under the watchful eye of Phil Spencer, who is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming?
Look, like I touched on in the intro, that there's nothing worse than walking into a gym, and I'm just going to put it in a sports analogy or an athletic kind of way. When there's nothing worse than walking into a gym where your coach isn't in line with you, and his higher ups, whether it's general managing or whatever, isn't on the same level. It's hard to walk in those doors and give 100% to doing whatever you're supposed to do. There are people that will thrive in the environment because they came to do a harsh taekwondo session, right? But not everybody's that dude. And most of the people are there to learn something and show their talent and fight, right? And walking in today for these people must be a breath of fresh air. There's going to be some people that don't align with the new regime, right? That don't align with the new people in there. Just like Xbox has been kind of finding its footing for the last decade right now, right? Like if you think about the leadership changes, everybody that's in a spot right now in Xbox are on the same page from the top to the bottom. Anyone that came in from ZeniMax that had a different version of what they think their games are or Xbox is are gone, or a lot of them are gone. There's shifts for a reason, and you see how long it took Xbox to kind of get the leadership structure going and the idea and have a big focus. You saw how long that took. It's going to be the same for Activision Blizzard, but Matt Booty is on the top. Phil's on the top. Sarabon's on the top. They all know what to do and what their aim is, I think, from an outsider. And there's nothing better than walking into a gym and everybody's on the same page. Your partner's on the same page. Everybody knows what to do and how to drill. And you just do your thing. And now they have creative freedom. They could do whatever they think they want to do as long as the pitch is okay. And there's nothing more breathtaking than that. There's nothing more upbeat about that. There's nothing. It's just so amazing, right? For these people. What do you think about that, Dave? Daniel?
Daniel, yeah, Daniel McGee, yeah. I mean, great way to pass it over to him. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this? Because obviously, you've talked about this not only on this particular program, but you've talked about it on the Fix many times with Umbra. What are your thoughts on the mindset of the actual designer, the developer, walking into work today for the first time without Bobby K at the lead?
I mean, so I think that there's no way that they're going to walk in and not feel some kind of pressure relief from having this really awful leadership structure above them. And we've seen that throughout the next couple months, a lot of that leadership is gonna leave, not just Bobby, but unfortunately Lulu, who seemed like she was pretty cool, and a bunch of other people who were probably also problematic, if I had to guess. Like it takes a village to get away with the nonsense that Bobby was getting away with. So unfortunately, there's probably some fault in some of those other people who are leaving as well. So I'm glad to see some of them go, I guess is what I'm saying. It's not going to be, an immediate turnaround is the problem. It's like getting Bobby out of that situation it's like taking the knife out of the stab. Like you still got to sew it up and let it heal. It's going to take probably a year and a half, maybe 2, before we start seeing like actual sweeping change in those studios. But now like that process can start to happen. And I think it was something that in terms of business had to happen. I think that Bobby being there was so bad for PR that like even if he did make a lot of money for the company, which he did, there's no way that you can walk into a boardroom and be like, yeah, we're keeping the Cosby Room guy on payroll. Like
that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
For us. Especially not with just like the whole methodology of Microsoft and what they've been doing in terms of like being more progressive and being pro-union and things like that. Like he just doesn't work in that environment at all. And I've heard some people on other podcasts saying that like that they should keep him and that they should put him in charge of
absolutely
all of Xbox.
not.
Like
my God.
Literally there was a person who said that. I won't say who. And all I can say is no, absolutely not. Get rid of this person. I hope that he drops his golden parachute on some deserted island and we never hear from him again.
Man, just to touch up on like some people are crazy, right? Because it's just like it's just like Bobby's whole thing was I don't like Game Pass, or I just want to maximize profits, put all these talented developers on one thing they don't want to do, blah, blah, blah. And it's like that just counteracts everything Xbox has shifted towards, right? Creativity, have the Game Pass model, like all that stuff. And why the heck would you keep this guy on top if he doesn't even believe in what you're doing? It's so maddening.
My thing about that too, that statement, that's kind of crazy to me, Daniel. It's just like the amount of things that have happened behind the scenes that, I mean, just the thing from what we have heard, I'm surprised that man isn't in jail, right?
Yeah.
For the amount that has been
the death threat against the woman that if you remember the story, there was a death threat where they had him on tape. Saying that
like
he was
in a meeting or something.
So it's like, so why hasn't, it's always wild to me when you see people defending certain parts. And it's like, again, I can recognize what he has brought to Activision and Blizzard and how he has helped them be successful throughout the years, but that doesn't get rid of the stupid stuff that has happened behind the scenes. But that's why I also think that that's more defense as to why, if there was anybody that was going to end up acquiring ABK, Microsoft was the best option from what we currently have. I mean, if anybody wants to argue that Tencent was going to be the better option, I mean, I'm not going to argue politics with anybody here. That's not what that show is for. But I don't think that having more Chinese access would be the answer to games that literally everybody buys. I think we should keep that American if we can.
The best case scenario is that wouldn't change anything, right? Because a lot of the times they'll just like move in and be like, here's a bunch of money. Your money's my money now.
Exactly.
For the
But
The
yeah,
guys in Twitter and chats, right? Like, think about how long it took Xbox to kind of penetrate and solidify itself, and it still
Right.
stumbled, right? They're picking
Right.
themselves up. Imagine if Apple comes in and swoops up, I don't know, PlayStation or Activision, I don't care who, but like,
yeah.
let's say one of those companies comes along, Amazon, and picks this guy up. It's like, you think they have any chance? It's going to be terrible.
Care,
Anyway,
really. Yeah, that's
it's
the
going to be
main thing. They
terrible.
care, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I listen. He's when he's leaving with like $40 million or something like that.
Right,
Like
he's
his golden
more than that.
parachute is big, and he's never gonna have to work again. He was making a lot of money for years. He probably invested his money. He actually probably made a ton of money outside of his
Oh yeah, of
severance
course.
package,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know, of his stocks when ABK sold. So he's a millionaire 10 times over. So I'm not worried about Bobby K. Like I said,
The
ultimately,
human
this is a
element.
great way to open up the show, open up the new year with a positive mentality. You know, I couldn't be happier for the people at Activision now that are going to. And again, do things change overnight? No, they do not. Are there going to be some stumbling blocks? Potentially. Are there going to be some trials and tribulations? Sure. But it's not going to be anything like when it was run by Bobby K. And again, any of those people that were left over from some of the stuff that went on have either been, sent packing or will eventually be sent
Hopefully.
packing.
Hopefully, because some people like to hide out in the wing, maybe hide in the broom closet, and they'll pop out and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you missed me."
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely. And to drop one last little nugget, guys, the now I think with a lot of the talent being free and out of the workshop, it's not necessarily
mhm,
that I hope that Call of Duty doesn't get built. What I hope is that most of these people, there's going to see within the Call of Duty machine, there might be,
mhm.
let's say, 500 people that just don't want to do Call of Duty and freaking, I don't know, 10,000 people that do. My hope is that those 10,000 people that do will stay on it and be passionate about it, and the 500
Mhm.
that don't can go on and make Blizzard games or whatever they want that hopped on board in this company in the first place. And that's the key here, is that these
Mhm.
people are going to be able to do that, and I'm freaking so excited for the games itself and the quality and whatever ideas come out of it. So good
Absolutely.
kudos and good riddance.
yeah, I agree. Listen, I want to shift over to the next topic. Again, folks, welcome. We have almost 600 people here on a
Ooh,
Tuesday afternoon. A lot
let's
of new
go.
names. Obviously, we hit 14K for right before the Christmas holiday, which was amazing. We hit it on our big $1,500 giveaway show. Obviously, you guys and gals know it as it was the Christmas with Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick. It was a very successful show. Everyone got their winnings. We're very happy about that. And we hit 14K live on the air, which was absolutely amazing. Now we're on the hunt for 15. Now we're on the move for 15K. And if you are finding the channel for the first time, folks, I do ask that you consider subscribing. I do live stream 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, all different panels, all different shows. But we never use hate mongering or we never use clickbait to get you into the channel. It's a lot of fun. We talk about some serious topics as we did to open up today's show, but then we're going to get into some of the fun ones. Now, I do want to go right into Xbox Game Pass.
Mm.
Listen,
PlayStation sucks.
yeah.
Mm.
Well, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of fans for that, but we don't. We try
Oh
not
no, I'm
to
banned. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
rebel rouse, if you will. PlayStation they are who we thought that they were, and
No, I love them.
they're on their knee, folks. They're not on their knees yet. They're definitely down on one knee, because just look at what happened in 2023, and of course, VGC, their first story of the year. It turns out that yes. Sony was fined 13.5 million euros, which I believe is about 15 million US dollars for their lack of competitiveness when it came to third-party controllers. I have spoken to some people behind the scenes that think that is not going to be the only one or the only lawsuit. Usually what happens in the EU, one does it and everyone follows suit. So this might be a running trend. Sony might be in a bit of a pickle. Not the greatest way to start 2024, but Steel Rain.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to talk about for a second the nearly $9,000 worth of games that have been put into Xbox Game Pass in 2023. It is a really, really big deal. Now, again, this story came to us from achievements.com. And look, Steel, one thing that is very apparent about the way Xbox is doing things nowadays is they changed the industry on how you buy or, get your games in a service. They have turned the industry on its head. A lot of people don't like this. Sony certainly doesn't like this. Nintendo doesn't like this because those two companies are very traditional. You buy the box, you buy the games for the box, and you can only buy those games on that box. That's it. But Microsoft has figured out a way, and they took the Netflix approach where they have this plethora of entertainment available to you as the subscriber, and you pay your low monthly price. There's an option to buy if something is going to leave the service. You can go out and buy it, something you can't do with Netflix, right? You can't do that with that particular streaming service. But to get the confirmation from TrueAchievements.com that nearly $9,000 worth of games was put into the service, you got to start to think, wow, one, you made your money back tenfold if you paid $16.99 a month, even at full price. But how are they going to match that in 2024? Let's talk about it.
Well, I was doing some research in 2022, the year that everybody said it was the weakest year for Xbox because of the first party side of things. It was also the year that I was probably more defensive about Xbox and their output than anything. Just in 2022, they put out $7,000 worth of value that year, and people told them that wasn't enough. So, especially because there wasn't any first party games. I disagreed with that, again, because as somebody who cares about games across the board more so, and I have I pull myself out of the world. I take that RTS view I like to always see.
Indeed you do, sir.
But for me at least, seeing Xbox being consistent in this, so if they did 2022, they did 7K. In 2023, they did 9K. Again, that's a $2,000 difference year over year. I think the only answer is for them to spend more. Right now, at what point, again, this is always going to be a question for people, at what point is that sustainable? Well, I mean, obviously it's sustainable for them right now. They keep saying that they are making profits, that it is a sustainable option for them currently for what they have for Game Pass. And again, it has never removed away the option, Boom, from what you hinted at earlier, that you can still buy these games just because they're in the subscription, just because you could pay $17 a month, $1 a month, since they did bring that dollar bill back. If you're paying the $204 a year for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate as an example, and just to get all that inherent value inside of a service that you can subscribe for and still buy games at full price if you wanted to, I think the inherent value in that is just really hard to complain about, at least for me. But that is why I will always fight back, especially for Xbox now, against that whole first party argument, because they have already told us that they're looking at the industry differently. And if we continue to have these first party conversations and it's staying there, and again, there's no excuses being made for anybody. First party output should have not been what it was in 2022. It showed a lack of consistency and a lack of high quality, if you want to look at it from that perspective. But just looking at a business that is trying to give their consumers inherent value and has always tried to see different ways that they can give their consumers inherent value. And I would say, at least since Xbox Live became a thing, and again, I mean, I know paying for online access is very is a very negative thing for console gamers since PC doesn't have to pay for it. But again, you're paying for so many other things that people tend to forget about. Your servers. Hey, when's the last time Xbox got hacked? As an example.
Perfect example.
Just putting that out
Shots fired.
Just putting that out there. But the inherent value to me is always just something special. Game Pass has allowed me to experience games that I otherwise probably I wouldn't have played or would have second guessed, or just wouldn't have been on my radar. And I think that's the main thing that I've been working on, getting people to understand. Hey, you may not find everything, and there is, and you have hinted this all the time, Boom, and so has my brother Pong. Gaming isn't for everybody, but there is a game out there for everyone, right? And maybe people just have to adjust what their interests are nowadays. I see a lot of that, people speaking more of the graphical side of things, and it's like, or just speaking to a particular style of game that they like. And I hear you if you're frustrated that you're not getting those heavily graphical, narrative-based, over-the-top games that you were looking for. But we're also finding out that those games are anywhere between $100 to $500 million now. So that can't be the expectation all the time. Right. There has to be something else in between. There's even argument to be had that even that is kind of ludicrous to see. When do we get back to the point where it's more about the value of the game itself versus the movie-like qualities that these games are giving you? And again, a lot of the games that we're getting in Game Pass are not of that movie quality, so I guess that's why the inherent value to some people isn't there for them. But if you're a gamer, if you're looking
Ninja Theory's coming, man.
Ninja Theory is definitely coming. But again, that's just one. If you use that for argument, it's just one game amongst all these other games. You got all these other baby games and game. That's the arguments you end up hearing. And again, you have to find what works for you. As I like to say all the time, know who you are, not only as a gamer, but also as a person, of course. Right. But just maybe dig deeper a little bit. It's the inherent value that Xbox has continuously given us. I think is a fight back to some of the first-party argument, but also I think the majority of it is fight back to that Xbox having no games kind of idea that was there before, and just Xbox continuously proving that they are here to stay. They're not going anywhere by 2027, guys.
That's more shenanigans from the community. Listen, before I bring it back in Gamsley, I do why, because I have the article in front of me, and okay, so I love giving credit where credit is due. This was posted and published by Ian Stokes, who obviously writes for TrueAchievements.com. What he said in the opening was Xbox Game Pass continues to be a fantastic deal for Xbox users. We checked out how much every game added to the service in 2023 and would have cost us to buy, and it is a lot more than what we paid. And it goes on to say, and again, this is literally reading verbatim from the article, folks. It says, according to our data, the total value of the games that were added to Game Pass at their full price in 2023 stand as this. Here in the U.S., it was $763 worth of games. In the UK, it was £7,095. In Canada, that came to their monies $11,425. In Australian money, $13,392. In Europe, their pound is 8,879, and in Brazil, which of course this is Brazilian money, 36,898. That, Gamsley, is a lot of value for a $16.99 price. And again, when Steele is talking about it, now again, it really depends on the gamer, because there's something unique about the way Nintendo make their games, and there's a unique way on how Sony makes their games. Sony's games are very bombastic. They're very movie-esque, right? That's how they're developed, and they have a look to them. Now, not everyone digs it. I totally get that. But the one thing that you have to tip your hat to, especially when we're talking about Xbox Game Pass and its value, is the fact that there are games there for everyone. And the plethora of choice when it comes to genre is unmatched. You know what you're going to get with a Nintendo game. You know what you're going to get with a Sony game. What's great about Xbox Game Pass is that you know that there is going to be something there for you. Not every game is for every gamer, folks. You know I say that, but Gamsley, this is a lot of money. And again, it went up by nearly 2,000 from the year before. You would imagine they're going to at least match, potentially go even higher in 2024, especially when you start seeing some of the third-party marketing deals that they have, some of the games you already know coming to Xbox Game Pass, which is 40 so far, and all of their first-party. What are your thoughts on this ridiculous value?
Oh man, I love it. What was that? Like 5 million Canadian?
Canadian was
$11,000.
$11,425. That's a lot of
Oh man,
Canadian
I'm
bucks.
so happy. Honestly, no, for people like me and people or people struggling, whether you're hard on time or I don't know, you dropped out of gaming or whatever your purpose is, Game Pass is amazing value, right? Because that's honestly, I came back to gaming largely on Game Pass. Like I started back on Game Pass. I saw what was it? Oh my goodness. I think it was Pillars of Eternity, or is that it? Pillars?
That's Pillars, yes.
Okay. I saw Pillars of Eternity pop up. I don't know if it was last year or because they had a version of Pillars up on Game Pass for a while. Maybe I might have left and then came back this year. I'm pretty sure, like the definitive edition or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm getting my times mixed up, but these games are phenomenal games. And honestly, oh, sorry. I truly think there's everything. There's something there for everybody, like everybody's saying. But most importantly, it I think Xbox identity, like we keep saying like the movie games and all of that stuff, and is it expensive? Is it too expensive? Don't get it twisted. Xbox is coming full throttle with those movie games too. You know what I mean? I could foresee this year. We'll see it in the numbers. The only way it goes up, right? The only way they start putting more money in, so putting, let's say, 12,000 or whatever, 15,000, all depends on where the number is at this moment. You know, they have interior kind of margins to hit, right? So if they hit those things, if they hit those subs, the sub counts, they hit those player numbers, I'm sure Xbox leadership is like putting more and more money. We'll see how it reacts this year, but I'm pretty sure that when Hellblade drops, you know, a lot of that budget, there's going to be not much in development. That studio is going to have like a slate clean, right? They won't have a big budget to start, so all that money is going to get relocated in certain ways. They're going to have that freed up, right, and put somewhere else. Once that drops, once maybe Avowed and all these games start to pop in, they're going to have a very large budget, especially when player numbers rise. I think they're going to go like 13,000 this year. I think they're going to pump so much in it. I think they're going to get the most growth this year, which is crazy because, you know, when you look past, you see games like Halo come out and Forza and all that stuff, gigantic names. But I think this is Xbox's big year. I think they throw that budget all the way up.
Well, I
think we get a lot of. We get a lot of honestly, Hellblade, Ninja Theory was a great purchase, and I think that they got them specifically for that reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got it specifically for their ambition in tech and their ambition for that type of game, and I think we're just going to see. I think we're going to see a lot coming from them.
I agree. Like I said, if you want to continue to grow your service, you got to put more content into your service. Same way Netflix does, same way Amazon Prime does, same way Apple is investing. All of these streaming services need content. You need to feed the machine in order to people to continue to pay for the service, but more importantly, join the service eventually. Daniel, before I bring you in on the conversation, let me catch up on the super chats. First of all, B Martin 001. He starts off the year with a bang, folks. He has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. Brother, that is very generous of you. Thank you for starting off the year strong for us here at Double Barrel Gaming. We have a channel member who's been a member for 12 months, and that comes in the form of Adidas20, and he says, "Get your popcorn and controllers ready." Indeed, sir. Thank you so much for the generosity and continued generosity. Jonas the Dad drops an outstanding $2 super chat, says, "Happy 2024, Boom and crew. Xbox is going to own this year. Happy to you and yours as well." And yes, like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there that if you go looking for, you can find and potentially guesstimate what they're going to be doing this year. I have some information from several sources that has been checked and double checked. But again, we're not talking about that today because I'm not comfortable letting the cat out of the bag. But I can tell you that it is going to be a big year for Xbox and specifically Xbox Game Pass. And then we have MMM Midnight, who's been a channel member for 13 months. Thank you for the generosity. And he says, "Happy New Year to Boom and the panel and audience. I wish you all a safe and happy New Year." And of course, we extend that to you and your family as well. Listen, Daniel, let's talk value. If there's one thing that we and again in the green room before we went live, I was talking with Gamsley, and I'm saying, 2024 has an outlook to potentially continue on prices raising on everything, whether that be your groceries, your mortgage or your rent, your cell phone bill, whatever, your cable, your Con Ed, and everything is going up. And one of the first things that go when you are struggling to put put the pedal to the road, so to speak, or the rubber to the road to pay these bills is entertainment. And one of the things that I find almost fascinating, to the point where I have to mention it at least a couple times every other month, is the fact that Microsoft, or specifically Xbox, allows people of every financial station to be a part of the conversation in gaming. Gaming's expensive. Games
Perfect.
here, if you buy a game, whether that be on Xbox, Nintendo, or PlayStation, is $76.43 after tax. And that is a lot of money. And instead of spending that money on that one game, you can have Xbox Game Pass for nearly 5 months. And that is a really big deal. And when you consider that last year, they had over $7,000 worth of games. This year they have almost 9. It is safe to suggest that they're going to at least match it, potentially go further with it. What are your thoughts on this confirmation from TrueAchievements.com?
So I don't even necessarily think that they need to rise above that this year. I think that just looking at the games that they already have slated to come out, like
What we know,
those could be the only ones, like day one games that they add. And I think I'd be pretty happy for the rest of the year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like there's a ton of stuff going into it, and then there's all the first party stuff that we don't even necessarily have release dates for, but we know is going to be 2024, like Hellblade and all that. Like it's already going to be an extremely compelling service, even if they cap it at the things we already know about. So I don't necessarily think that they need to like go above and beyond on it. But why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think once you start throwing in the Activision Blizzard catalog and you're launching the Call of Duty games on there, I think those numbers are going to go up real fast. And so I think that we do probably see the amount of money being spent back into it rise as well, because that's how you do it. You invest in yourself, and more people come in because there's more and more games that they want to play. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen. I don't know at this point what else is even coming out 2024 that they would buy into. I was looking up a list of all the games of 2024, and to be honest with you, right now there's not like a ton that I'm super excited for. So I don't know. I mean, I assume we're going to get a lot of news first half of the year here about what's coming up in the tail half, because all we have right now is stuff for the first couple months. So I don't know. A lot of the stuff that we have release dates for is already going to be in Game Pass day one. So there's not even a lot of things to be like, they should get this or they should get that, because like it's already happening.
Yeah, all they got to do is avoid stomping on each other's feet. If they put
Yeah,
something out, just make sure the small guy doesn't get stomped.
yeah. It's looking like, I mean, I'm sure 2024 is going to be a really great year for everybody in terms of games. Hopefully PlayStation announces some stuff. Nintendo tends to not really announce things until they're about to come out anyway, so I'm sure we'll get some things from that. I think the only thing I saw that I know Nintendo has is the that Princess Peach game. That's the only one that I know about. I'm sure there's more. That's the only one that I was like aware of. Um, but yeah, I don't necessarily think that they need to like compete that hard with it right now, because there's not. I mean, like what, like who's their competition in that space? It's like PS Plus isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Nintendo online thing is good. Like I enjoy the back catalog games that they put in there, but it's never going to be like, it's a very different model. They don't even
Yes.
really have all the
Yeah,
games that I'm looking
Nintendo's
for.
definitely very
Mhm.
Yeah,
different.
like they
And
added the Game Boy catalog and didn't add any any of the Pokemon
Yeah, but
games, and
they
I'm like,
they
what are we
definitely
doing?
have to go they definitely go hard. They have to go hard. They have to know what's happening in the background with the other companies. Like,
Yeah,
for sure, PlayStation has something. As an opponent, you can't just like
yeah,
slack when the
no,
other
for
people are
sure.
slacking. They
I
got to
don't
really put their
know.
foot forward.
I don't
They
know,
have
man.
to.
It seems like there's going to be a lot of second and third parties, but again, when you have the
Yeah,
branding, that's what I've always been speaking to. Like when you have that brand power and
Yep.
you can stand on your own with that, it's just a
mhm,
different conversation at the end of the day, because Sony's going to be okay at the end of like no matter what, Sony has to literally give up and say,
yeah,
you know what, Xbox, just bring your
Mhm.
games over, just Game Pass. If that happens, then we know where the industry is at that point.
mhm,
But again, to like your point, games, like I just don't. It's hard for me to imagine that PlayStation literally has nothing. And if that
Mhm.
is where we are at right now, we're just gonna say, "Oh man, they got Stellar Blade, and Xbox has we got Hellblade, we got Avowed, you
yeah,
got all these other games that are planning on to release, along with that inherent value of Game Pass that we just got done talking about." It's like what what is PlayStation going to come out and say? And that's what I've been interested in as someone who is in the Xbox ecosystem, who wants to invest into the PlayStation ecosystem. Um, what are you giving me? What are you giving your consumers? Like what other games are coming out? What other IP? There's no hopes and dreams even now. That always used to be a thing. Like we're in a very gray area as far as gaming goes,
Yep.
and
That's
people
yeah,
that's the
felt
most
this
scary.
way about Game Pass, right? They were like,
That's the
I think
most
Game Pass is the gray area, and it's like I don't know. There might be this other gray area over here.
But gray areas are very scary for literally everyone, right? Even
yeah,
fighting, right? If you don't know who's stepping in that ring, you're probably scared, right? You're more
Right,
nervous.
which is a good
So it's
point.
very
Mm-hmm.
scary. You got to trust in your ability and go full throttle, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they shouldn't take the pedal off. They shouldn't. They should train as hard as they
Yep.
could train,
Keep
right?
going.
For the next fight, because you don't know who's gonna pop in that gym, right? You have no idea.
and
So
to
you
and
got to
to
train
that point
hard.
and to that point right there, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's
yeah,
just in the sake of competition. Things have been
Yes.
back and forth, right? That's what we have
Yes.
always talked about. Oh, don't worry, guys. Xbox is going to win this time, then PlayStation. I've always made the
Mhm.
point that that shouldn't exist anyway, because PlayStation is a hardware company and they've been in the competition longer. So why are you, as the veteran, taking hits in your third generation? That doesn't, anyway, that
Mhm.
doesn't make sense to me. That should be your prime. But now, that for that sake of competition, I don't think there has to be this back and forth. What if you go for a couple generations? What if you happen to change how people just fundamentally think about games? Which is how, if you really look at it and step back, that is what Microsoft has created. For better or for worse, we're going to find out for sure, because licensing is already a problem for us as a consumer. But if they somehow figure it out where Game Pass literally allows you, or Xbox allows you to play your games anywhere, and their competition still says, no, you got to come to PlayStation, I does that make sense to anybody?
No, it does not. And that's again,
And
it's
that's
one of
what
those.
that's my word.
Yeah, Steel, that's a great point, because it's
yeah,
one of those things that Sony's already on their back heel. right? That this, folks, you can say
Maybe,
whatever you
yeah,
want
maybe.
about console sales because that's the new trend, right? Now there are these knuckleheads, these Rhodes scholars, if you will, touting how many consoles that they sold. Good on them that they sold
That's what's up.
consoles. You
Yeah,
know what?
man, that's amazing.
It's amazing. Congratulations. You know, you're
Man.
selling more than you did at this time with PlayStation 4.
Wow,
But you know what? You're not selling games because you don't have any games. They don't have any games to sell. And as a matter of fact, a list came out today that Sony put out there, and they gave a world ranking of the games, the top 3 games being played across the countries and across the world, folks. And you know what? The one running narrative, and we're probably going to break that down tomorrow night, or at least maybe, you know what? I think I'll save that topic for Thursday when I sit down with C Money. There was not one first-party game in the entire world that was playing in their top 3. Not one.
Can I jump off of you for 1 second?
Sure, go right ahead.
In that point, look, guys, like, so when it comes to Sony, I'm in this, like, I talk trash about them and whatever. That's my, I'm a trash talker, but this is not trash talk. Look, for real, Sony built their whole brand, right, on having Square Enix, right, almost tied back and forth with Nintendo and Sony, right? They tied Square Enix. They tied that big name to PlayStation. Everybody thought that's the way to go for Square Enix games, right? Then you look at Spyro, and you look at all these other characters that start popping up. Not one of these are first party, right? They built their whole platform. Nathan Drake didn't pop up, and that's why you're playing a PlayStation. No, you bought a PlayStation because you knew Square Enix games are day one. All these Japanese games, Capcom, all these games are day one, right? On the platform. They're biggest. They're beautiful on it. It's like the biggest thing ever. They built their brand off of that. People blind to that is a little strange to me. They don't have the selling power Nintendo has. Like, let's hop onto Nintendo. Nintendo, right? They built their platform off of Mario and exclusive games, first party exclusive games. Once the tide starts to shift, okay, this is where PlayStation actually has to be careful. Once the tide starts to shift, and all these games, Square Enix, Capcom games, all these third parties that were so gigantic and made PlayStation what they are, right? Once all those players start to go day one on Xbox, okay, let's be serious. Once Xbox has Call of Duty branding all to themselves, right? Activision games. Once ZeniMax starts to take off, right, into big territory, do you really think that God of War is Mario? Do you really think that, Uncharted is Mario? Can PlayStation actually live in second place or third place like Xbox did? Do you think they could live there? Because that's the really scary part about PlayStation. They're riding off of things off 300 million budgets, right? For Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And like Uncharted, and Spider-Man's not even yours. Like what starts to happen when all those, let's say 30 million people start to shift to Xbox, right? What happens to you? Can you live with making those big budget games and staying alive and healthy off of your first party? Can you do that? Like,
and I know Halo
I'm worried
Infinite
in that
costs
way.
500 million, but like at
no,
least Halo
but they
has
have money.
multiplayer.
No, but see, that's the difference, guys.
backing.
That's everybody says that, right? But that's the difference is that
Exactly. That's my
Microsoft
point,
was
yeah.
able to survive because they're Microsoft, right? But PlayStation isn't Microsoft. So if you're third place and you're trying to claw everyone to your platform, and the only thing you have is licensed games like Marvel, right? And all you have is God of War and Uncharted and those little tiny games that don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things, how does your budget look? And what do you start to produce? It's going to be really scary, and people are blind to it. And I don't know why.
Dude,
I don't know why.
Phenomenal points. Absolutely phenomenal points. Steel been talking about it with Pong on Live and Split Screen on what does the future look like for Sony in third place. And it's not good because they said it themselves in the leaked documents. They are expecting, not that it's possible to happen, not that it could happen. They are expecting that Xbox is going to leapfrog them. That is their words, not mine. And that is in fact going to happen because when you look at this year alone, they don't have any first party games. Now, could they? Sure. But, we're still waiting on the, that rumored last show by Colin Moriarty. They're coming out. It's going to be a Year of Dreams Part 2. And we're still waiting, folks. And I think you're going to be waiting for quite some time because, well, they're in a tailspin. They had to shift. They had to shift under Jim Ryan's leadership to gas games. And when he was fired, they had to then reevaluate the 12 games. They canceled 6 of them. 6 of them are still in development, supposedly. And now we know that they're first party teams, which they know how to make good games, folks. They do. Maybe it's not your game, but I like them, right? Those are going to take years to pivot. And, a perfect example of a failure at leadership that no one in the press is talking about is the fact that a game like Last of Us Online was in development for 3 years. The kibosh was put on by Bungie, who they bought for $3.6 billion, which I think was way over what they should have spent. And now you ask the question, well, with Bungie having the problems that they're having, and they're supposed to be the savior, who saves the savior at Sony? This is why they're in a pickle, folks. But we want to move on to a topic, folks, that is just warming my heart thinking about it. Now, it may not be your game, but my sister-in-law, who is amazing, got me a Banjo statue that is politely sitting right in front of me. And I know there are Banjo bros out there, right? I know Paris Lilly, right? Good Paris, friend of the show. He is a Banjo bro, right along with me. Well, we know that, and shout out to, of course, Jez Corden and Randall Thor of the Xbox 2 podcast. I don't know. They talk about Banjo bros, right? I don't know if they're actually Banjo fans, but here's the thing. We know who is definitely a Banjo fan, and that is Phil Spencer, because thanks to an article from thegamer.com written by Rion Bevan, and this was published quite a while ago. I brought it in for context. Phil Spencer, in an interview, acknowledged the calls for a new Banjo Kazooie title, saying, "Banjo fans, I hear you." Now, of course, the article says, while this is far from a confirmation that a new game is in the works, it implies that the series is still being kept in mind and that Xbox knows fans would love a new game after all these years. And of course, I have to bring in our very good friend of this program, friend of the community. You know him as Ecstasies. I mentioned him in the opening. He is a Spanish from Spain YouTuber who not only is amazing at what he does as a content creator, but he also has massive connections. And in a post that he put out just last week, folks, he says this. I clarify, this is not an April Fool's joke. A famous leaker has confirmed the information we gave some time ago on the channel that there is, in fact, a new Banjo Kazooie and it's coming. Pause. The popular insider Nate Drake has confirmed it, and there is reason enough to believe to get hype about this project that Xbox will bring. Also, let's remember what Phil said. Banjo fans, I hear you. Now, Steele, I want to go to you first on this because, listen, the thing is this. We just finished talking about Xbox Game Pass, right? And we folks are in an era where, and I said this in the opening, Microsoft as a company and Xbox as a platform has literally changed the game, pun intended, and they have turned how making money on selling video games up on its head by introducing Xbox Game Pass in 2017. Now, it wasn't profitable then, but it is massively profitable for them now. And the thing about a banjo game is that Microsoft, as a company, doesn't need to sell $10 million, 10 million copies of it. See, like, a perfect example of what I'm talking about here, folks, is we turn our attention to Sony. Now, we have learned that they have sold about 6.1 million copies of Spider-Man 2. But they need to sell, I believe it was 7 or 8 million copies to be considered breaking even. But companies don't want to break even, Steele. They want to make money leaps and bounds for their investors.
Mm-hmm.
Where the idea of a new Banjo Kazooie having or coming to fruition is a thing, is that Xbox doesn't need 10 million Banjo Bros to go and buy this game. What they need is for this game to take center stage, whether it be at a direct, whether it be at the equivalent of E3 in the summer event, or at a Gamescom, or at another event where they show this off, and that goes into the service that's going to have a Hellblade 2, and it's going to have an Avowed, and a Clockwork Revolution, and a South of Midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and a potential Gears collection. So this game that doesn't need to sell 10 million copies goes into this pool of games and says, wait a second, I remember playing that when I was a kid. I want my son or daughter to experience this Banjo-Kazooie because I love the character. Maybe they will. And that is how they make their money. What are your thoughts on Banjo potentially coming back?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't been the biggest Banjo fan. I think I'm gonna let my Banjo Bros down. I've been off to the wayside. I mean, I'm not gonna lie though.
No!
I did love the first Banjo back in the day, though. I never got a chance to play the second one, and I don't have any genuine interest to play Banjo again. I like for my sweet childhood memories to be just that, sweet. I don't want to be woken up to a reality where I realize that the game may not be as great as I remember, or the chance of that. Although from what I have seen from people playing it, though, even the what was it, Banjo Tooie, Nuts and Bolts or something like that.
Yeah,
the one that
360
Zelda's like.
Yeah, it's not a. I tried playing it. I put about 10 hours in the beginning of the year. It's just not a good Banjo game. Honestly, it's just not.
And then when you have something like that, that's the most recent example, and Banjo hasn't traditionally sold the greatest. To your Boom, because you do have Game Pass, you do have the chance to take chance. But the main thing is just making sure that you have a studio that is very passionate about bringing that IP back, right? If Rare isn't going to do it, then you have to make sure that it's under good tutelage and that these people, because the one thing about Xbox that I have at least seen, there does seem to be a much more care towards their IP than I have seen from others outside of Nintendo, which I don't know if that's care or not, because Pokemon shouldn't release at the quality that it released it at. Like, Pokemon is the #1 brand, and it should be one of the games that has the greatest quality. But that's a different rant for me. But anyway, just sticking to Xbox, bringing in Banjo would at least fulfill that want for family-friendly games that I know Phil always talks about also. So it's like it's a double-edged blade. But I do think that it swings more so in the favor for your consumer, because it is in Game Pass, and because I do have those memories. If the game is of good quality, even if they just remade the first game to start, right? So you know what, we're the new team. We're gonna jump in here. We want to give the fans of what our vision of that is, but we want you to know. But we understand, kind of like what Playground is doing with Fable, right? They went back and grabbed some of the old Lionhead people, and they're like, hey, we want to make sure that we understand what Fable is. And we saw with that trailer that he seemingly understands the humor, understand that there needs to be a quality element to it. And that's what I would expect to get out of a Banjo, at least what I would expect from Xbox to put into a Banjo if they do that. And if it's of good quality, again, like they say, you make good games, people will play them. And it could end up being a reason that people come to your platform. Do I foresee that being the case? No. I think there's some other ones, go ahead and mess with Crash a bit more, maybe Spyro. But again, or maybe these characters need to fall to the wayside. Maybe we need an official kart racer. Boom, I think that's where we're at. Maybe just Banjo needs to be. We need a Banjo kart racer. There's been all these other ones that have been happening. Make Boom's dreams come true. Make Boom's
yes. Listen, any banjo is a good banjo day. Listen, Games, I want to bring you in a second. I want to just catch up on the super chats over here. We all have a couple. Andre Doyle, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, Hellblade 2, Arc 2, Stalker 2, Avowed, etc. 2024. Yeah, that is just the start of it. There is so much potentially coming out. I mean, again, South of Midnight was rated. Clockwork Revolution was rated. We do know for a fact, or at least I know for a fact, that there is a Gears of War collection. It exists. What that looks like, what they're doing, I have some other information. I will not disclose that. That's not for me to do. I'm not a developer. I can say that from what I was told, and again, shout out to Idle Sloth, who slothed me, and we got picked up by a couple of websites, which is pretty cool for the channel. It does exist. This is what my connection told me, and I've heard it from multiple sources. But I have other information that I'm not willing. I was asked not to put out there, so I won't. But if that drops on top of what he just said, I mean, I don't think anyone can compete, not even Nintendo, with a new console. It's going to be big, and I'm buying it day one. And there is rumors for the Nintendo Switch 2 to launch with a new F-Zero. Thank God, finally, and a new 3D Mario. Yes, please, among other things. So we'll see. Gerald Mack drops an outstanding, very generous $5 super chat and says, in all caps, by the way, Xbox has separated themselves from PlayStation in terms of games quality, and quantity is a different game that Sony may not be able to play. Yeah, I don't think Sony is. If you get one first-party game that has not been announced in 2024, that is probably the best you're going to do. That's why in those leaked documents, we heard that they're going super strong when it comes to third party locking up those exclusives for their brand, because they don't have anything ready. Well, that's what happens with bad management. Cullen Prime, who's been a channel member for 4 months, says Xbox doesn't need to win the console war. They're winning the gaming war. Indeed that they are. And just look at the numbers. And I cannot wait to see, and we'll learn shortly what the fourth quarter is going to look like for Xbox. And it's going to be probably the most money out of everyone, simply because of Call of Duty by itself. But Gamesley, let's bring you in on the conversation. Okay, look. I understand that Banjo, it may not be a game for you, and if you did play it, it was years ago, and maybe you don't have an affection for the character, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that we are in an era where you don't really have to reinvent the wheel, and how we know that's a fact is by how Capcom specifically has released Resident Evil 7 and 8. They took it in a different direction. A lot of people were on the fence, including myself, as being a Resident Evil freak. Was like, I don't know about this first-person stuff. Enjoyed them very much. But then they went and they said, okay, we are going to appease our diehard fans. And they remade Resident Evil 2. And they did it with unbelievable TLC, attention to detail like no other. It's probably one of the best remakes ever. Now, if they didn't want to, because again, you got to remember, Banjo Kazooie is an N64 character. Now, granted, he is playable in Smash Brothers. If anyone watched any of those reveal videos of it, people went crazy. It got me emotional. They got so excited because I'm a Banjo guy, right? They don't have to reinvent the wheel, and I don't think it's necessary to make a game, like Steele was saying, a game from scratch to a new audience. Remake the original, take the TLC that went into Resident Evil 2, take that same ideology, push it onto Banjo, put it out there for the masses, and if the masses respond, that's when you make your sequel, or you remaster the second, you remake the second one, and then you follow your suit with a sequel. What are your thoughts, Gamesley, on this?
Okay, well, first off, I loved the mascot era of gaming. I just loved it. We got the best competition during that era, right? We got
Indeed.
Spyro, we got Jack and Daxter, we got freaking everything. We got everything. Mario, all this stuff. Sonic. I mean, all this stuff was incredible and incredibly creative. Creativity that is lacked in some of these big open world games and these big IPs. I'm so excited. So if I'm gonna give Banjo and that fan base credit, is that, man, you're making this happen. There's a demand for these characters, even though it's not as big. There's a demand for these guys, and I'm glad that Xbox has the power to do it. And again, thanks to Game Pass, it doesn't have to be a gigantic number of sales to make them revisit characters and make new games, right? So props to that. We know it's relevant. We know it's very relevant. I can't count how many fans take that how on one hand, take that how it is. That's a hand joke. Laugh. That's a hand joke. Laugh at it. I only have 4 fingers. There's not a giant fan base, but there's enough to keep it afloat and keep it alive. And I love seeing mascots come back. We need more mascots. Who's next? Daniel, let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Boom walked away.
Yeah, I don't. No, I was like,
Quick, feel for time. No,
Yeah.
so here's the thing. I think the first Banjo Kazooie is a perfectly fine game for the time it came out, back before video games were video games. And then Tooie came out and was bad, and then Nuts and Bolts came out and was even worse, right? So I'm just like, do I need another Banjo? No, I don't care at all. Like, even a little bit. Like, I think
oh man,
there are
I
dozens
thought you were
of
gonna be a positive spin on it.
not even
No,
like
no,
going in.
this is
You're
what we love
just
about
going
Daniel.
in.
He rips off the Band-Aid and takes hair with it. Go ahead, Daniel. Keep going.
Oh man,
there's probably like a dozen mascots that I would rather see brought back. Where's my Sly Cooper? Where's my Jack and
man.
Daxter? I'd like to
Yeah.
see a lot of these things come back.
Jack and
Banjo
Daxter
Kazooie,
got
no,
Jack and Daxter got murdered by Naughty Dog. Unfortunately,
that's true. That did happen.
Yeah.
So like, do I personally want this game to come back? I don't really care. I mean, it's like what Boom said, right? Like, not every game that they make needs to be a big hit anymore because of Game Pass. They can just put out games that people want to make. So I do think that it makes sense for them. It's an easy crowd pop for the 17 people that still care about Banjo Kazooie. And some of those people work in the media, so they'll be able to write some good articles about like, oh man, they're bringing back Banjo, and then immediately change it to like, well, it's only an 8 out of 10, so it's the worst game that's ever been made,
That's
or whatever.
True. Yeah, we'll see.
So I don't know. I think it's an easy win for them to just be like, here's a probably pretty low budget mascot platformer, and really all it has to do is be acceptable, and I think people will be fine with it. So yeah, why not? Go for it.
Isn't that super sorry, I almost swore. Super exciting. Like it like to at least have Xbox have they have iconic characters. They have Chief
For sure.
and stuff like that. But it's so exciting to have Spyro and Banjo.
Spyro, Banjo, and Crash.
Man,
yeah. I mean, if you really want to go deep,
crazy.
you can throw Conquer into the conversation because something like and again, I know they wouldn't do it because that's not their bag, but something like Tim Schafer studio, Double Fine, would be an amazing studio to make a Conquer game because they know how to add that sass, if you will. Look, I'll say this, and again, what I love about what Xbox is doing, and Gamsley brings up a great point. They have iconic IP, right? Mm-hmm. They literally, folks, and we know this. This is facts. This is not suggestions. They currently have nearly 50 studios, and of course, there's 34 or 35 of them that are named studios. And then, of course, you have places like Infinity Ward that have multiple studios that are just opened up another studio. So they have a bunch of developers in place. And I think that when you look at specifically when you take this podcast and you rewind it all the way back to what we talked about ABK, there are a lot of studios that were in those Call of Duty salt mines, if you will. And again, that wording comes from our good friend Kay Asante. And they are still probably going to be a part of the cogs that make Call of Duty, but they're not going to be stuck doing just that. Something like Toys for Bob, who obviously were made famous thanks to Spyro that they created, as well as, of course, Crash Bandicoot. They were a big part of those games. Could they take on the mantle, or did they grab a third party? There's a game that came out a couple of years ago called Ukulele. That entire team is all former Rare developers that made this studio to make a love letter to Banjo Kazooie. And if you've never played it, you should, because it's freaking phenomenal. But again, I understand that there is a small, and I mean this, there's a small subset of people that are cheering this on. There are a couple people in the chat saying, "Oh, thank goodness somebody's keeping it real and saying that capping for Banjo." Hey, brother, if it's not your type of game, I hear you, but it's my type of game. And I think that one of the things that Xbox Game Pass needs is to have family games that are in there outside of Minecraft. There are areas in Game Pass that are lacking. We still don't have a new Killer Instinct, even though we know that is in development. The team that brought us seasons 2 and 3 are making the next iteration of Killer Instinct, whatever that is. And there's no doubt that studio's already been acquired, just haven't been announced yet. So the fighting genre that is missing from the lineup of Game Pass is going to be taken care of, is currently being taken care of. But when you have Crash and you have Spyro and you have a Banjo Kazooie, platformers are still a thing. Just go ask Nintendo, who consistently puts out platformers that sell millions of copies. Now, granted, there's going to be people here that say, well, wait a second, Boom, you can't compare Mario to Crash Bandicoot or to Banjo Kazooie. And you might be onto something. One, obviously Banjo, depending on who you ask, I think he's iconic. I think Banjo and Kazooie, both of them are iconic. They started out on Nintendo. But again, not the biggest story of the day for sure. But one that I wanted to kind of talk about, because I'm a Banjo Kazooie fanboy, and I'm hoping that game does come back, and well, it looks like it is going to come back in a big way, and hopefully. Again, it's one of those things, Daniel, that you go right back to you about them not needing to sell 5 million copies of this to be, right, to be a relevant conversation as to why they took it. And again, all you have to do is look at some of the games, like, for instance, Grounded. Grounded was made by 12 people. It was a small budgeted game, and now look at it. So I'm not saying that's going to happen with Banjo, but they could make a small team or get a small team to remake the original. Yeah. Maybe it's not the biggest budget,
but it very well could take off. It could, like, just because I don't care about Banjo doesn't mean that there's no shot for it being successful, right? Like, there's a whole group of people who really love platformers and want to see those mascots come back, right? So I definitely can see that could be a big win for them, and that's sort of one of the things that I am sort of upset with PlayStation with in these last couple of years, is that they feel like so gun shy. Like, they're so afraid to take risks because they can't afford to fail, I guess. And so, like, that's why we see them canceling factions and, like, doing all this stuff. And it's like, when you're making a lot of games, when you're making any kind of art, you can't be afraid to fail. You have to be able to just put these things out, and then if it doesn't go your way, then, like, roll with the punches, right? Because it's exactly what you were saying with Grounded, right? That came out, and it wasn't like an overnight success. Like, it came out and it was kind of rough at launch, and people saw the bones of it and were like, oh, it's like a little Honey I Shrunk the Kids survival game. There's something fun here. But it wasn't what it is now then. They had to really stick with it and add a bunch of updates and stuff before that user base found it. And it's the same thing for, like, Sea of Thieves or whatever, right? So you got to be willing to take these shots to see what's going to stick and what's going to continue on to become a more important franchise for you going forward. And, like, Banjo could very well be that. There's definitely, like, nostalgia cachet for that. If they can find a way to make platformers fun again, then, like, yeah, 100% get in there.
Just Banjo existing again, you best believe that PlayStation will be forced into it, PlayStation for decades have been trying to make something so iconic like Mario, right? Right now it's Spider-Man, right? But they're gonna have to follow suit. Like, I mean, Sackboy might come back because of it, right? Sackboy in a better way might come out of it again in competition. Stuff like Astrobot, right? Might Astrobot? Is that the new
Yeah,
like the
Astrobot. Yeah,
little robot?
yeah,
Yeah.
the little
Like
tiny
that
robot. Yeah.
might come back from like in a big way, bigger or whatever. Like there has to be competition in the area for people to force. And if Banjo explodes and Spyro explodes again because of Game Pass, just the sheer number, they can't ignore it. Because then you're gonna be like, well, we're gonna make a game better than that, and it's Astrobot or something, right? And that's important, and Banjo living is very important. So I hate it. I think it's useless, but I rather it exist and force a little bit of competition in that mascot area than it not existing at all.
Yep. Listen, I agree. I absolutely agree. Listen, we again, I didn't know how long the show was going to go, but we still got 35 plus minutes, folks. So we do have another topic that I do want to get into in a hot second. So let me just pull this up, and we will get to that fourth topic. Now, obviously, when you talk about Xbox, I think that the first thing that most people think about is achievements, because obviously the achievement system that was made into this monstrosity that it is now started out when the Xbox 360 launched. And why we're talking about achievements, because, well, thanks to, of course, Shpeshal Nick, who's a good friend of this program, great friend of the community, was out there on Xbox Era with John, and they were talking about some things that he is hearing, and that Xbox has in fact done an achievement overhaul, and we should be seeing it sometime in 2024. The question is, did it need to be improved? Steele, I'm going to go to you first, brother. The achievement system is something that a lot of platforms copied. Sony, specifically, when the PlayStation 3 first launched, did not have trophies, but eventually made their trophy system with a bronze, a silver, a gold, and of course the platinum trophies, which would be considered the equivalent of a 1,000 out of 1,000 achievement game. The difference, though, is you are awarded, and there are a lot of people that really dig these platinum trophies. It is your medals of honor, so to speak. I only have a few, but I have platinum a few games that I fell in love with. Ghost of Tsushima being one of them. Spider-Man 2018 being another. I think 2 trophies away from platinuming Miles Morales. I love the game that much that I did all of the silly side quests to try and get the platinum trophy. But still, there have been a lot of people that have been doing these the call outs for Xbox to do some sort of upgrade. And again, there are those diamond achievements there, and they're not platinums.
Right.
They're achievements for certain things that you do that are not the norm. They're special. They have a special sound when it pops. But my question to you is, did the achievement system need to be overhauled, and are you excited?
Well, if you ask me, I think I'm probably one of the more interesting people to ask about this, because
I can't wait to hear.
I don't care about achievements. I have not cared about achievements in a very long time. Are they nice to pop up when I see them? Yeah, sure. But because it goes on to, it's become kind of more so this, you get a certain amount of credibility depending on how many gamer score that you have. I've found it to be kind of more laughable than anything else, because that's what it's used for more than anything, more than a personal benefit. Now I do get that some people do get the personal benefit out of it, and that's why I do agree that Xbox should inherently make the system better, because they haven't enhanced it for any reason. Now for me, the reason I say that it's not for me is because I'm a multiplayer gamer. I can spend thousands of hours in a game and have again, it's out to Halo, Gears, Forza, Black Desert. There's so many different games that I've played throughout the years that I've dumped my time into because we were just good games. I don't get anything from that. Now, I can't rely on Xbox to go in every single game and give me, somebody who decides to envelop myself in that world for X amount of time, additional achievements or additional benefits for doing so. Now, I do think that that's where we should, and that's where we should go. Because inherently you give those people additional value to pour even more or stay within your ecosystem because you're awarding them for that time. And I think that's more so where the achievement system has failed me, is that once I've beaten the game, I'm not a guy who goes back through the game. I have never pulled up my achievement list. I can't tell you the last, maybe in the 360 generation earlier on for a Gears 2 achievement maybe, but even then, like, I was playing multiplayer more so I never ended up going back to that list. So for me, for the people that wanted it, continuously want to see that score go up, like, I want y'all to get the best achievement system possible. But until they make it more inherently valuable to you as the consumer, as in, hey, for X amount of time spent in this game, we're going to give you some bucks back, or hey, if you do these things in these games, you're able to get some of these things back. And I know they curate some of that stuff now, but it's not like it's based off of achievement on a specific type of game. Just because you got the hardest achievement in the game, you don't get anything for that other than, oh man, I got it. But if we gave you something for that, like it's a 500G achievement, it's $5. Boom, I appreciate you. Appreciate you for spending your time focusing on getting this achievement. I think that would be a better value to the consumer and would enhance that system. But for me right now, as it stands, I can honestly care less about it, because it needs to be, all that effort that they're putting into that needs to be put into the games. We're still getting broken games. We're still getting things that are not complete. The systems in the games aren't complete. Shout out to Starfield. It's an 8. It was an 8 for me last year, for 2023, right? I was up there as my number 2 for Game of the Year. But it had issues that, hey, maybe there's some of that energy that you're spending on achievements, I could use that in Starfield, just as an example. So it's just, that's where I start going with it. And then I start going on a tirade a bit. But that's just me. So again, I don't want to take away from it. I'm not saying it's dumb or anything like that, but I just haven't found any value in it over the years since it was introduced. So,
I mean, listen, again, it's something that some people like hold high in regard. For instance, I actually really do. I achievement hunt. I play a game. If I get a good portion of the achievements, I do try to 1,000 out of it. I don't have. I mean, my gamer score is 343,708 currently. I got just a pinch under 8,000 gamer score for December, which was massive. I don't normally do that, but I was playing a lot of shumps. And there's achievements to be had in those, and I quite enjoyed it. I like the idea of an overhaul. I don't know what else they can do. I do like the platinum achievement ideology. Maybe there's going to be, I don't know what they're going to call it or what it's going to look like. But Gamsley, before I bring you in, I do want to show, just stop the footage for a second, and I want to do a screen share because I have it queued for that Xbox era episode. And of course, this goes a big shout out to Idle Sloth, who put this out on the socials, as he does. So let me just do a full screen. And folks, this is what Shpeshal Nick of the Xbox era had to say.
Especially, just emphasize rumor mill, not leak. This is definitely.
I know,
happening.
but that's not how everyone treats it. They don't treat it like a rumor mill.
Fuck them all.
Fine, come on, go for it.
Okay, all right. So now, impromptu part 2 rumor mill. Impromptu part 2 rumor mill. What I'm hearing.
Reading.
Just got a DM about it. What I'm hearing is that Xbox are nearly done with their achievement overhaul, with changes to achievements, and we should be seeing it next year. So I guess when they say next year, I assume they're aware of the fact that it's New Year's Eve. So I'm guessing they mean 2024 there. But we should be, at the very least, being shown it. Because you know how sometimes they put stuff in beta and then it goes through different rings. So it might be one of those things that makes its way through. I don't know. They're not saying that. I'm saying that.
Always a speculation that it's now.
I can't help it. Because I'm trying to
what-
clarify.
But hey, like Jason did a super chat earlier on in the show where he asked, like, for me, one of the things I'm really looking
I
forward
know.
to in
Jason
2024
asked that he wants to see the achievement overhaul. And then I'm like, I just got a DM about it now that they should be showing, maybe not releasing, but at least showing the achievement overhaul, whatever that looks like next year. That people have been, and isn't it funny? We were talking about it with Macca.
Yeah.
We were saying, and I said that I had heard, I got a DM like, how long ago was it, Jesse? Like a year ago or so about changes to achievements. I just got this right now while we were on air. They're like, I'm watching your show. You want this?
Boom.
Like, all right. I'm like, all right.
I'll take it. All right.
So I wasn't going to because I was a bit funny about it, but yeah.
It's a
there you go.
potential. It's a rumor. I mean, now it's fact, and it's just another guess you got wrong. 'cause
It's a
that's all you
rumor.
do.
It's all rumors for me. I'm not
You
Tom
just guess.
Henderson. I'm not Jeff Grubb. I'm just a dude. I keep saying it. I'm a pleb that just people give stuff to, and I trust most of these people,
with your
There you
life.
go.
rightly or wrongly. So yeah.
All right, well there you go, folks. So Gams, let's bring you back in over here. Obviously, Shpeshal Nick, shout out to the Xbox Era podcast, phenomenal group of guys over there. Jesse Norris, Nick, and obviously John. Great work that they do on a regular basis. And this is again certainly not the biggest story of the show, but one that I think a lot of people are digging because there are a lot of people here that are into achievements. Gamsley, what are your thoughts on the achievement overhaul that a lot of gamers have been asking for? Because obviously, people want the equivalent of a platinum trophy for Xbox.
All right. So first off, I love this topic. I'm super by nature, super competitive. I don't know if you know, but I played games very competitively. World of Warcraft, League of Legends. I mean, oh my God, one sec.
He got an alert on his
I
phone. Yeah.
am so sorry.
Don't sweat it, bro. That happens. It's real life.
I am
Don't sweat
so
it.
sorry. That was awkward. I'm super competitive. I got very highly rated in Valorant and League and all these big games. Very, very highly rated. Trust me. More of that on another podcast, maybe. So when I see these things, like all these little, it just hits my dopamine, right? When I see an achievement pop up, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, cool. You know, I loved it in the 360 era. I loved that it was so big and in your face. You know, when you go in that menu, they were big pictures. Remember that? Like big
Yeah.
pictures, like little icons and stuff like that. I loved it. And even the tiny stuff like dressing your avatar with achievement rewards, they gotta bring like you were saying earlier, they gotta bring something to the table to make you feel good, right? They gotta do something like that.
Mhm.
You know, put it in Diablo kind of tier system, you know, common, ultra, epic, legendary, you know, whatever, perfect or something, you know, do that system and just give me something with it. Just give me that you completed the game, legendary achievement, and then give me an icon, a banner, I don't know, an in-game skin. Like,
Yeah, that's
it-
a good
it-
idea.
Something, yeah.
like an in-game Diablo skin, like for their specific games, for first-party games, give me something. You do with Halo for Game Pass rewards. You took away the reward system. If I had to guess, and I know that Jez Corden said why they took away awards and Bing and stuff, it was like tied to Bing and data recovery and all that stuff. But I would love to think that they're like, you know what? What if we tie the reward system? We have to have a reward system. We have to bring it
Right.
back. Nintendo does it. So let's not lose our footing. Let's just take all that data that we learned how much people use it, how much people actually can access it, whatever. Refine it, and then tie it to our achievement system. And I would think that would blow people away, because you can't lose to your competition in another aspect, right? Just clean this up and give it a good experience, because you want to be a platform with Game Pass. And I think this is a great, like, a reward system tied to your achievements would probably grab a lot of people like me that are competitive and like to play games and see the pop and hit that dopamine. Give me a freaking armor set and give me a icon or a banner. I love that stuff. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people are in the chat talking about how they used to, and there's still, achievements attached to, you getting your points, your Xbox points, your Microsoft
rewards.
points.
Yeah.
The rewards points, which I do on a daily basis. Like I play, the puzzle game every day, like to get my 60 points. I go and I answer a bunch of questions on Bing. It's not as lucrative as it used to be. Like, for instance, now they went from like 10 points to like 8 points. You're like, oh my God, what? My score is not going up, folks. What's happening? As a matter of fact, there's like before, they used you guaranteed 100 points if you click on the 20 different stories that were worth 10 points a piece or 5. That only gives you up to like 20 points on that and freezes. I think it's their way of saying, hey, we're giving away too many points, people, because like I'm closing in on 200,000 reward points right now. I don't need the money, and not that I'm rich, but I'm banking it for what I'm going to keep banking it until maybe it helps me pay for the next console, whatever. I'm going to keep going. But I do, like, back in the days, you're right. They used to attach in-game items, whether that be cosmetic or a gamer pick or something, to you getting this achievement. And I'd love to see them incorporate that again, especially with their version of what they're going to, whatever it's going to be, the platinum, if you will, for Xbox.
And it was so, sorry, I hate to cut you off, but I'm so passionate about this. He's people in the in this podcast say, okay, we didn't even open our menu, right? It's like, and a lot of people are like that. They don't even open their menu to get into the achievement system. But in the 360 era, that thing was so big. It was in your face all the time. You used to see it all the time, right? And even when it pops, you're like, oh my God, you're enticed. It's big. You're like enticed to just get it off your screen or whatever. But when you click in there, it's just really welcoming, like big screen TV, like boom, here's a big picture and your reward and blah, blah, blah. And that was really impactful to me. It's the little tiny things, but you tucking it in a corner and having a mini menu of it and like whatever. It's like, I don't know, man. It doesn't scream premium to me anymore. And it doesn't scream, here's this big thing, we're treating it as a big thing. It's kind of just in the background, and that's not what it should be, in my opinion.
No, I love it. I love it. Daniel, before I bring you in on the conversation, 2 super chats came in the form of a $2 super chat from Sir X-Men. Thank you for the generous donation, as always, brother. He drops a $2 super chat and says, I care about achievements for the rewards program. Indeed, points are good. Points get you free stuff. Nothing wrong with that. And Web Dave, generous friend of the program, who is, of course, on Monday and Friday's show, he drops a $2 super chat and says, Steele, can it be onto an achievement tied to the rewards?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's what it's about. Yeah,
it could very well be. They stopped the rewards program. Maybe it's running parallel, right, Steele?
That's what I said. Yeah.
We'll see. Daniel McG, do you care? You don't care about Banjo. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. But you might care about achievements, or you might not. Daniel, what are your thoughts on the actual? Because, like I said, this is something that people have been asking for quite some time. I'm glad that Xbox is listening. We know that they do, thanks to this the last show of the year for the Xbox era, which happened to be December 31st. Obviously, it was revealed by Shpeshal Nick that he has heard literally on the show while he got a DM saying, hey, yeah, they're overhauling it and they're going to show it to us potentially next year. Did it need an overhaul?
Yeah, so it's kind of two different questions. Is do I care and does it need an overhaul? Do I care? No. Does it need an overhaul? Yes. Because Xbox invented the whole like achievement system, and then it was ripped off
That was
by
good.
Steam and PlayStation. And PlayStation just does a better job of it now, right?
Yes.
The platinum achievement is just better, or trophy, whatever. You know what I meant.
We got you.
It's all the same. But yeah, so yeah, it definitely needed this overhaul. To Steele's point, like there's other things that they need to do more, in my opinion. But also like Steele, I think specifically you said they need to put that effort more into games, which is true, but also like these are different teams, so I'm not hurt by it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Here are some things they need to fix. Number one, add that mastery achievement, right? Get that in there. I don't care what you call it. I think we said the mastery achievement on one of these podcasts a while ago.
Yeah.
So definitely do that. Make it so that when there's a new update or a new DLC, it doesn't hurt your percentage of completion. I think that's really weird. Like put it in a new tab, like how PlayStation does it, where like the DLC comes out and it gets added into a new thing, like a sub tier underneath the existing one, so that there have been games that I 100%ed on Xbox, and then like Hypebusters or whatever came out, and I was like, oh well, now I got to go and get all the achievements in that too, because now I don't have 100% on that anymore. And so that sucks. So don't do that, especially because sometimes they add achievements. Sometimes they add achievements for like an update. They'll be like, oh, we dropped a new season of Sea of Thieves. Here's 7 new achievements. And I'm like, no, what? No, the battle pass is the achievements you don't need to do all this. So like that's really annoying of just like, here's some more stuff. And it's like, no, I was done. I finished. Don't put more on my plate. I'm full. So there's definitely some things that they need to fix about it. I think that they should also, to Gamsley's point, make it more of like a front-facing thing. You do have to go kind of into the back end to find your achievements, which it's not like super hard to find if you know where to go for it. Like it takes maybe a couple seconds, but I don't think that most people probably care. So yeah, I think make it more front-facing, make it feel better, and then just like make the UI of it nicer. Like they added a thing, I don't even know how long ago, but like forever ago, where you can actually track the achievements that you're trying to go after, and it'll like pin it to the screen. And I don't know anybody who does that. I don't know a single
I don't do that.
person
Yeah,
who's
I don't
actually
pin the
used that
achievements.
feature.
Yeah. Such a good
so,
idea, but didn't execute.
You can do it. You can 100% do it. I mean, that's one of the things that PlayStation needs to take from it is the like live updating of it, where it's like, oh, you've gotten 7 of the 10 things or whatever, and it'll update, and then you can see it on your screen. Like that's nice. But no, yes, it does need an overhaul. They need to make it as good, if not better, than the trophy system. And then it's fine. I don't think that it necessarily needs to be like the biggest thing in the world. I think the people who want to feel that gratification of 100%ing something, they just need it to be serviced to them in a way that is prettier and easier to engage with, and then they'll do it for themselves. You know what I mean? Like it'll be you don't necessarily need to be like, here's money for getting the achievements. Like you don't necessarily need to do that. It's nice and I'll take it, but like it's unnecessary.
No, I mean, it's to your point, especially about the comparison of the platinum achievement. They absolutely need something.
They need that
for anyone that gets 1,000 out of 1,000. Again, for some people, it's not going to matter. People, whatevs, I don't care. But I'm an achievement hunter. I have been since inception, and I quite enjoy getting the achievements. Obviously, Gamsley is also a fan of achievements, and again, that is his internal competitive nature that make him a prime candidate for bringing back or I should say overhauling the achievement. And Steele's I was like, yeah, you know what? Achievements don't really go high on his list because he'll put 1,500 hours into a multiplayer game that doesn't have achievements past those achievements. So
or like
you're not
Fortnite, where you play the multiplayer mode and all the achievements are in the single player.
Fortnite. Yeah, I mean, you're only going to get so many achievements. So look, at the end of the day, strong way to start off the year, folks. We have again, keep your eyes peeled because there's an announcement coming at some point. If you go back to what Xbox did last year, going into 2023, on the 11th, they announced the Direct for Starfield. I have a strong suspicion, and again, I'm going based on our very good friend Tim Dog, who has been very chatty on the socials about keeping your eye to the socials, that something is on the way. Microsoft, or specifically Xbox, likes doing things that worked. We know that is a pattern that they have been, for better or worse, it does do something that they enjoy doing. And again, I'm not, again, don't sloth me. I'm not saying I know this for sure. I have a strong suspicion that if we don't hear about it on Friday, we could hear something as early as Tuesday morning of next week. And again, this is just my speculation, that an announcement for a direct is happening. Now, what is that direct? Well, I think it's going to be for Hellblade, because that is one of the first games that are coming out this year, at least in my personal opinion, based on what we've seen. But let me catch these. Let me do the super chats, the two ones that have come in, and then we'll get everyone out of here, folks. I know Steele's got to go pick up some family, as he does at the end of these shows, so we'll get him out here first. Elemental PO, a good generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, I loved what Rare Replay did to get you to play a little of every game, which would unlock videos, pictures, etc. Yeah, Rare Replay was dope, and I'd love to see more of that type of engagement. Sir X-Men, generous friend of the program, drops an additional $2 super chat and says, I'm tired of the nickel and diming achievements after 2014. I hear you, brother. I mean, 5-point achievements shouldn't exist, folks. I'm just saying 1-point, 2-point achievements, those definitely. Some people like really freaked out by that with the numbers thing. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, you saw I had 08, 708. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I could care less. But listen, folks, great way to start the year. Big thank you to all the super chats that have come in. Shout out to all of the new viewers. Lots of new names and faces here that I've never seen before. Hopefully, you enjoyed the program enough to do a couple of things. One, hit the like button before you get on out of here. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And of course, if you want to be extra generous and you want to tell everyone about a program that you listen to that specifically covers Xbox and doesn't use hate mongering as its a drum that it bangs, you share this on the socials and let people know about not only Double Barrel Gaming, but the Xbox Factor podcast. And we'll start first with you, Steele. By all means, sell the brand, brother. You have some pretty hefty goals in 2024 for, of course, Living Split Screen Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. with his brother from another, Pong Soul. Great show, usually 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. I listened to the whole program. Man. It was amazing, brother. Sell your brand. People, where can people help you hit the 5K that you are trying to get to this year? And more importantly, where can people follow you on social media?
Well, Boom Panel, it's been an amazing show for sure, getting into the conversations and really getting into that human element of things. And again, like I like to say, that RTS, real-time strategy, pulling yourself out of the world, looking at the darker crevices of the map and just pulling our resources together so we can have a conversation that'll hopefully reach those 3 billion gamers that Phil always talks about. But yeah, man, it's always a good time being here, Boom. I greatly appreciate you having me on. And you guys can find me, Steel Rain, the T is a 7, everywhere. Google is probably the easiest place to type that information in if you want to find me. Other than that, it's going to be the Xbox ecosystem, just because it works so well in tandem between PC and the console itself. But yeah, man, every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. UK time, me and my brother from another, Pong, do host a non-console-centric platform known as Living Split Screen, and it's an amazing show. We've been going 4+ hours here recently, and yeah, that push is definitely going for 5K this year. It's just going to be a content push, breaking down the shows, making it easier to consume the content, because I know we do a lot, but with that comes a lot of additional content that we can kind of pull from that and kind of go from there, because I think we're making a lot of really dope points during our shows, because I tend to listen back, and I think it might fly over some heads. So I think putting that into the ethos might be doing some good this year, but we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, other than that, you can find me here every Tuesday on Xbox Factor podcast right here with Mr. BoomStick XL. So greatly appreciate you, Boom.
Appreciate you being a part of this show each and every week, brother. And of course, enjoy the day with the family. And thank you for your input as you do. And of course, what the amazing work that you and Pong do on a weekly basis on your weekly show. Gamsley, brother, it was great to have you a part of today's show. You did outstanding being that your first show. Well, obviously, you got a brand to sell. Let's hear it. Where could people follow you on social media? And what else you got going on, dude?
Well, first thing, you could find me on basically all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's all Anthony Capello. That's my real name, so come stalk me, I guess. So you can find me on all those. My name's very easy to find. As I said, I'm an international athlete. I should be in Google. I should pop up on Google pretty fast. Gamsley TKD is my Twitter handle, and specifically Anthony_Capello450 is my Instagram handle. And I don't have anything going right now. I'm a little bit of a free agent, but I am planning some things. So if you liked my voice, and you like my energy, maybe there's something coming in the future, just drop by those handles and look for the news. One last thing, I'm going to shout out all my disabled community, all that community. I love you guys. You can do anything. And for you guys in the chat, just remember, a lot of people look like me. A lot of people act like me, but they're sheltered, they're scared. Some of them are sad, they can't put themselves out there. So if you see one of these people, give them a hug, show them care and love. And man, we're good people, so give them a hug. And thanks for having me.
Listen, brother, great. Obviously, listen, everyone is welcome here, and everyone should be welcomed in your circles, but I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I can tell you what we do here, and it was great to have Gamsley join us today, and we'll definitely have him come back. Daniel McG, sell the brand of the fix, because Infinite Umbra, I don't know what happened. Yeah. What's that?
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously,
let's go.
I mean, he's not here to sell the brand, but you are part of that program. But you also have your own YouTube channel where, folks, he is doing the comic book gods work by rewriting the DCEU. And good grief, do they need some help over there? Maybe James Gunn picks this dude up, because some of his ideas are amazing. But he's also, well, a diehard gamer.
James.
And James, listen, reach out to this kid. He's got a lot of really good ideas, especially the Black Mask joint. Sell the brand, brother. Where could people go and check out that content? And more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Yeah, so I'll start with the fix. You can find me and Infinite Umbra, who couldn't make it this week, over on the fix on his channel, on the Infinite Umbra YouTube channel. We go live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's a great show. We talk about all kinds of news. You can find me personally on Twitter at Daniel J. McG, or at my personal YouTube channel of Daniel McG. I'm working on a video right now of my favorite things of 2023. I do it every year, and I've got some fun things in there. So it should be up in the next couple of days, and I'd love to see you. This is the year where my channel is gonna hit 1,000 subscribers, just like based on normal trajectory. It seems like that's almost a guaranteed to happen, hopefully before my birthday. So it's gonna be a big year for us over there. As soon as I can start making some money off of this, I'll be able to invest more of that into the channel. And I just wanted to say how much I really appreciate you guys on the panel and everybody in the chat for being a part of that. It's been a really fun journey for me.
Well, listen, it's great to have you a part of the show each and every week. And of course, we definitely can't wait for you to hit your 1,000 subscribers. And obviously, as you get closer, we're going to do a live on air push to help you get to that. Folks, if you're not subscribed, please get out there and support Daniel McG. Puts out great work, some of the best short and long content you can find. And he's very honest with his opinion. You may not agree, but at least you know where the opinion is coming from, and that is incredibly important, especially when you see so many people use falsities to gain popularity. We've seen it time and time again. People sell brands one way, the minute things shift, they sell it another, and people fall for the banana in the tailpipe, as they should not. But real quick, folks, I forgot to do this in the middle of the video, so bear with me for 35 seconds because Double Barrel Gaming has teamed up with the Valeri Gaming Pillow. And in such, I had a commercial designed by Sean Labrie. And folks, I'm telling you, if anyone has back issues, if anyone has posture issues, and you have long sessions sitting on your favorite chair, you definitely need to check out this the Valeri Gaming Pillow. I have one that was gifted to me by the Iron Lords podcast. It is amazing. It does help me. As you know, I have massive surgically repaired spinal cord. And you know what? Sometimes sitting for long bothers me. Not using this pillow because it fixes my posture. And because we've teamed up with them, you can use the code DBG15 at checkout, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Check it out before you get on out of here, and then we'll run the outro as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into today's new episode, or the first episode of the year for not only Double Barrel Gaming, but the Xbox Factor podcast. Tomorrow evening, folks, we're going to be breaking down live on the air on Primetime Gaming at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the PGD crew and a couple of guests what Xbox is putting down in 2024, folks. And there is a lot to get into. Join us again, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the new and the first episode of the year for Primetime Gaming. And of course, we'll close out the week on Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, thank you for tuning in for today's show. Enjoy gaming, folks, on whatever you enjoy gaming. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.